The question finally started exhausting them, not because it was cruel. Most people meant well. But after a while, hearing it over and over again began to feel strangely heavy. So, what do you do all day now? A few weeks ago, James and Maggie were invited to a summer barbecue at Maggie's younger sister's house. Paper plates, potato salad, children running barefoot through the backyard sprinkler, ice melting slowly inside red plastic cups. Someone had old music playing softly near the porch. And for most of the afternoon, everything felt easy, normal. James stood near the grill talking with two retired neighbors about baseball and lawn care. Maggie sat beneath the patio umbrella smiling softly while peeling the label off a water bottle with her thumb. Warm light moved gently through the trees above them. It should have felt peaceful. And then, somewhere between dessert and another round of iced tea, someone smiled and asked, "So Maggie, what keeps you busy these days?" Such a simple question, such a harmless question. And yet, the atmosphere shifted immediately. Maggie straightened slightly in her chair. Her smile tightened just a little. And maybe you've felt that too. That sudden pressure to make your life sound important enough. Maggie started answering quickly. "Oh, I read a lot now, and we've been walking more. I volunteer at church sometimes, and I started gardening again, and I've been organizing old photos." She kept adding details, one after another, as if silence itself might sound embarrassing, as if simply saying, "I enjoy my quiet life now," would somehow disappoint people. Later that evening, James drove slowly through their neighborhood with the windows half open. Streetlights glowed softly across the windshield. Porch lights flickered warmly inside quiet suburban homes. American flags moved gently in the warm night air. Maggie stared out the window silently. James kept both hands resting lightly on the steering wheel. And after a very long pause, Maggie whispered, "Why did I feel like I had to prove my life mattered?" That question stayed with me, because I think many people after 60 carry that same feeling quietly, the pressure to explain themselves. When you're younger, your life explains itself. Your stress explains you. Your schedule explains you. Your exhaustion explains you. People see busyness and assume your life matters, but retirement changes that. Suddenly, life becomes quieter, slower, softer, and strangely, quiet makes people uncomfortable. James noticed it too, at church gatherings, at the grocery store, at lunch with old coworkers. Even casual conversations started to feel strangely loaded. "So what's next for you? How do you stay busy? Don't you get bored?" Questions that sounded harmless, but carried something underneath them. An unspoken expectation. Please convince us your slower life still matters. And for a long time, James and Maggie tried. James explained how he repaired things around the house, how he stayed active, how he kept productive. Maggie explained her routines, her books, her little projects. They both kept trying to package their peaceful life into something impressive enough for other people to respect. One Tuesday morning, James stood alone inside the coffee aisle of a nearly empty grocery store. Soft music overhead, the low humming sound of refrigerator doors nearby, a cashier laughing faintly somewhere in the distance. He stood there comparing coffee prices far longer than he used to, not rushing, not checking his phone, not thinking about work emails, just standing quietly holding a bag of coffee beans. And suddenly, he realized something. For the first time in decades, nobody was waiting for him. No deadlines, no meetings, no office clock, No constant urgency, just a quiet Tuesday morning, and somehow that felt beautiful. But later that same afternoon, someone asked him, "So what do you do all day now?" And just like that, the peaceful feeling disappeared. Maybe you felt that too. That invisible shrinking, that pressure to make an ordinary life sound meaningful enough for other people to approve of it. Because privately, James and Maggie were happier than they'd been in years, but socially, they still felt pressure to perform usefulness. And maybe the hardest part was this: the quieter their life became, the less impressive it looked to other people. There was a time when James couldn't sit still for 10 minutes without guilt. Even rest had to feel productive. Coffee while answering emails, lunch while multitasking, television while paying bills. His whole life felt like one endless attempt to prove he was doing enough, being enough, contributing enough. And when retirement first came, the silence terrified him. One winter morning, he sat alone at the kitchen table before sunrise, the house completely still, the coffee maker clicking softly, blue morning light resting across the counter. And he thought, "Who am I if nobody needs anything from me today?" That question haunted him for months. But slowly, something changed. The quieter life became, the more he started noticing it. Rain tapping softly against the porch roof, the smell of laundry fresh from the dryer, warm soup on cold afternoons, Maggie humming quietly while watering flowers near the sink, birdsong early in the morning, golden light filling the living room around 5 o'clock, tiny things, ordinary things, things he would have missed completely during his working years. And somewhere after 60, both James and Maggie became emotionally tired of explaining why those things mattered. Not angry, not bitter, just tired of narrating their lives like they needed footnotes. I remember one moment especially. James and Maggie were having lunch with 2 former co-workers. One of them laughed gently and said, "I could never live like you two. I'd go crazy with all that free time." Normally, James would have smiled politely and explained himself again. He would have talked about routines, purpose, keeping active, staying engaged. But this time, he simply took a sip of coffee and said quietly, "I don't think we're wasting life anymore. I think we're finally living it." And then he stopped talking. No long explanation, no defense, no performance, just the truth. That moment felt terrifying and freeing at the same time. When I say retire quietly now, I don't mean disappearing from life. I don't mean isolation, and I definitely don't mean loneliness. James and Maggie still love people, still love meaningful conversations, still love connection. What changed was their need to constantly make their life understandable to everyone else. Retiring quietly means this: no longer feeling responsible for making everyone comfortable with the pace of your life, no longer apologizing for slower mornings or peaceful afternoons, or staying home sometimes, or finding joy in ordinary things. Not everyone understood that change. Some friendships faded quietly. Some people seemed uncomfortable when James and Maggie stopped participating in the endless competition of busyness. And honestly, that hurt, because retirement changes relationships in ways nobody prepares you for. Some people only knew how to connect through stress, through rushing, through complaining, through being busy together. And when you step away from that rhythm, the relationship sometimes changes too, but something else changed too. Their mornings became lighter, their nervous systems calmer. They stopped rehearsing explanations inside their heads, stopped trying to sound impressive, stopped apologizing for enjoying a soft life. And strangely enough, the people who truly loved them never needed explanations anyway. They didn't care whether the afternoons looked productive. They cared whether James looked calmer, whether Maggie sounded lighter, whether peace had finally returned to their home. These days, their life probably looks very ordinary from the outside. James makes coffee slowly. Maggie reads near the window. They water flowers, take long walks through quiet suburban streets, call people they love, notice the weather, notice sunsets, notice themselves. And maybe that's what retirement was trying to teach them all along. If you're in this season too, if you're tired of explaining why your quieter life still matters, I hope you hear this clearly. You are allowed to stop performing your worth. You are allowed to enjoy a slower life. You are allowed to disappoint expectations that no longer fit you. And you are absolutely allowed to protect your peace. Maybe retirement isn't about proving you're still productive. Maybe it's finally learning that your existence does not need constant justification to have value. Peace arrived slowly, right around the moment James and Maggie stopped asking permission for it. And maybe that's the quiet truth about retirement nobody talks about. Life became softer the moment they stopped trying to make it look important. So now, when people ask them what they do all day, sometimes they simply smile and say, "We live quietly now." And honestly, that seems to be more than enough. Your life does not need constant explanations to be meaningful, and it certainly does not need footnotes to deserve peace.